This is part 7 of my series on what went wrong with the COVID-19 response. Now, by the summer of 2020, things seem to be looking up in Canada. During the spring, there was a blip, a first wave of COVID-19 corona infections in Canada. And those infections were largely imported. They came from overseas via airports, but a lot of them also came over the land border. There were a lot of snowbirds, which is a Canadian idiom for people, especially retirees, who go down to Florida and California, etc., and escape the cold of the winter. They came back over the border, and there was no real testing of them. There was no serious attempt during early mid 2020 to close the borders in Canada. Now, what happened over the summer was infection rates dropped a little bit and it looked good. But the sad reality was the Canadians were living in something of a fool's paradise and testing was inadequate. I remember having conversations with several friends around this time by phone, and they were frustrated at the difficulty at getting tests. That was what was happening on an anecdotal level. On sort of a macro level, what was happening was the virus was spreading and in a very uncontrolled way. Whereas, for example, in South Korea, which also had a big spike in infections in February 2020, there was a serious attempt to track and trace and isolate the people who had infections. In both countries, the numbers were low. But what was happening in Canada was that the virus was spreading undetected. And that really became an issue in the fall of 2020. What was happening in the United States was that numbers were shooting up. And again, the American response was disorganized and allowed for a lot of community spread.